For those who have followed this channel for some time, you should already have some baseline understanding of what the kiosk represents. And if you don't, it means that either you came in later, you missed an update video that explained any aspects of it, which over time grow the fundamental understanding. In 2009 and 2010, I wrote some sort of novella. It was the least interesting thing. I mean, it's fascinating, but it was not a good read. I don't think any amount of editing could possibly save it. Nor should anyone be in the position of editing it. The process of the composition of this book was the generation of a tulpa. I will link in the description of this video a website. Well, I will first verify that the website still exists, I suppose. And if not, I may find another source. And I will link to it that this is a real thing. I'm not making it up. And that what it represents is not me being crazy. It's a powerful thing that some people's minds are capable of. So, the kiosk is, but what is the kiosk? It's not a kiosk, it's the kiosk. In retrospect, after the fact, when the kiosk's purpose was fulfilled and it left, what I retained was, in dream nomenclature, oniromantic symbolism. A secret room with tools and skill sets in storage. The remains of conquered past demons and a strange device in the dream, which this is a place that I've discovered in the house in my dreams in the past. A weird device that performs the function of all the things that the kiosk as a tulpa had accessed in existing. And I'll try and explain that, but again, there's a link to the main. I will find something that explains what these things are. It's effectively like an imaginary friend, but it is its own independent self. It is not the core of your being. It is not a dissociative alter. It is not schizophrenia. It is nothing like that. It is simply some of the back rooms of your brain, cognitive processing area that is really not being used. And it's for a self-saving, self-defending type purpose. It is as if your mind is able to generate a Virgil for your Dante. What it did for me externally, being the one who was writing this thing and having this thing go on in my head, was develop a type of compulsory self-awareness that I retain to this day and I use constantly. It is the formation of active metacognition, this strange device, and what it represents. It is the basement of the front porch of the house of the dreams. It is a secret place. Some people don't have those. Some people just have ground. The underneath of the porch is where the raccoons and the squirrels hang out. Cats. The domain of lost toys. The porch represents the outward facade. The innards of the house represent aspects of yourself, your spirituality, and your base urges, depending on what floor you're dreaming of and what's going on. Then there's the yard around it, the neighborhood, the town you live in, or a community, depending. Depends on how far out from the house you want to go. So, well over a decade past, the cessation of the existence of the kiosk as a tulpa, I retain certain cognitive faculties. One of these is an attempt at some type of creative or poetic generation, using what was formerly the ability to make intentions mentally. A lot of this is effectively hotwiring, circumventing the areas of my mind that have particular ideations that I try and avoid and fight, or whatever. Better not to fight, better to just hopefully not be around it, in a self-harming sense, to avoid. There is kind of a hot wiring around an ability to yet intend for functional thought purposes. This is all stuff that is normally internalized. But because of the spot where this, in the universe of my imagination, this Akira-like being who was and then was not, but left, definitely an effect in its world, if that makes any sense. I have a very powerful imagination. The problems with this imagination have often been that it's either beyond my control, it becomes overwhelming. I've, in the years of my life, decades of my life, learned to keep up with it, to keep it maintained, and to generally not have to deal with a lot of the stuff that I used to, through careful daily self-maintenance routines as far as goals, psychology, motivation, personal integrity. To kiosk, a verb. The kiosk, verb. What is that? Kiosking. When the kiosk is, I am engaging that mental faculty, generating an intensive warrior poem, for lack of a better term there. It's warrior poetry of spiritual combat, of the power of love. And the kiosk's abilities and powers only work in certain ways within my mind as far as affecting me, because that's what it all ultimately comes to. The rituals and magic words, God names, any of that stuff, any of the occult study, it has to do with impacting yourself. You cannot cast on other people. You can only cast on yourself. Therefore, you cannot curse other people. You can only curse yourself. That's why you don't go around being a freaking ab hominis dexteritum wizard like Harry Potter. It doesn't work like that. all it does is cast back on yourself, like Liu Kang throws a fireball and back in his face. That's it. That's how that works. That's a Mortal Kombat reference. Phaelus. That's what that is. Look it up. What is kiosking? It's just the warrior poetry of spiritual combat in the name of love. It is the casting of protective wards that are able to be, through that self-affected and outwardly expressed means, applicable if there is anything higher in this, world, universe, cosmos, existence thing. With any sway, that works. Anecdotally, I can say this. Scientifically, don't go trying to prove something like that. I would advise against studying the occult to anyone who is uninitiated. You can find lots of ways to do right, be right, without trying to summon or contact or get a glimpse of things that are operating around you all the time. If you can see them, they can see you. And the things that are not meant to be seen do not appreciate being seen. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.